Hello and welcome to GameSack. We're talking about games that are not licensed by the console manufacturers.
Yes, and there could be any reason these games are not licensed. For example, Nintendo maybe thought that some games were not good enough for the system and they returned them or rejected them, or they're too bloody. There could be any reason, you know?
Or they just didn't want to pay for the license because the company making them was too cheap. Anyway, let's just get right into it.
Camerica released 3 cartridges in the early 1990s for the NES. The cartridges were titled Quattro because they had 4 games included on one cartridge. These games were developed by Codemasters. Yeah, the same people that developed the Game Genie and make current games like the Dirt series. As you'd expect, with 4 games on one cartridge, they don't feel like they're going to have a lot to them, and they actually feel pretty shallow. There was only one game that I actually found to be fairly entertaining, and that was Super Robin Hood. In this game, you play as Robin Hood, and you're making your way through a trap-filled castle to steal treasure, which I assume you'll be giving away to poor people at the end. The castle is fairly tricky, and it's fun because you need to collect keys to open up new areas so you can keep going. You have a bow and arrow as your weapon, and it works fine, but it's kind of sluggish to shoot. Controlling Robin Hood is easy and responsive. The music's decent, and I like how it changes for every new area you make it to. The other games on these carts are a different story though. Most of them are just boring to play and are riddled with problems from horrible control to cheap deaths to really bad music. There's a game on each of these carts starring Dizzy, who looks to be an egg. I'm wondering if Dizzy is a mascot for Codemasters because there are other games besides these that he's the star of as well. If that's the case, you'd think they'd put more effort into these titles. Treasure Island Dizzy was hopeful, but the cheap deaths were really a turnoff. There's even a shooter here, but your playing control's so sluggish that it takes any fun out of the game. But at least it has a couple of playstyles, from a top-down vertical shooter to something behind your plane like Afterburner. The cartridges themselves are interesting. They're golden color, and that's probably so they'll stand out. Maybe Camerica hoped that when you have them on your shelf you will think you're grabbing a Zelda game, but you grab one of these by mistake and just play it instead of Zelda. The back of the cartridge is also interesting. It has a dip switch on it that states if the game doesn't work in position A, then try position B. From what I understand, this switch lets you play the game on European consoles. Is it bad that I'm more interested in the cartridges than the games?
This is Brave Battle Saga: Legend of the Mystic Warrior on the Genesis or Mega Drive. It's also known as Barver Battle Saga in some places. This is an RPG that was developed in Taiwan and only ever saw release there. In fact, most games programmed in places like Taiwan and China do not have the blessing of the console manufacturers. This version right here was translated into English in 2010. The backstory is basically about humans and demons developing different civilizations using technology and magic, but technology eventually won out and destroyed the world. But that doesn't matter at all because you're a boy named Tim and you're competing to be the village warrior today. Yay! Your goal is to get a teardrop from a tree or some such nonsense, which of course you have to battle the tree to get. Then of course some of the village thugs steal the teardrop thingy and one of them warps somewhere else. Your home village thinks that you killed that guy thanks to a bunch of lies and you're banished. So now you're a free spirit wandering around doing good deeds. You can see the monsters roaming around on the overworld, and if you get near them, you fight in a battle. The battles are the kind where you need to wait for the bar to fill up before you can do a single damn thing. And it's slow. The game requires a lot of grinding to level up, so if you're the impatient type, you might actually get annoyed fairly quickly. Fortunately, the game defaults to a brisk walking speed and a fast text speed. Messing with your items and buying stuff in shops is all plenty easy to figure out. The battles could be a little bit more fast-paced, but they're not too bad, aside for waiting for that stupid bar. The graphics are surprisingly pretty good. There's plenty of detail and nice color all over the place, but there doesn't seem to be any consistency. Notice that your character is walking around with a yellow coat and blue pants. Suddenly he's wearing a gray coat and red pants anytime a battle starts. Also, the creatures roaming around on the overworld are not at all indicative of the creatures that you actually fight. The music is pretty good, and I was surprised by the amount of different tunes that are in here, mainly because these types of unlicensed games don't usually have much in the way of variety. The story starts out being fairly good, if a bit minimalistic, but then progresses very slowly as you play. Still, it's a nice game to play should you ever come across an English version somehow.
This is Chiller, a super violent game for the NES. Released in 1990, it's a port of an arcade game from the developer Exidy. Now this is supposed to be a light gun game, but the problem is that using the light gun rarely works. Every now and again you'll be able to get a shot to register, but eventually the game will stop recognizing the gun and then it's game over. Luckily, there is an option to use a control pad, and you use a crosshair to aim at your targets. This method actually works pretty well and is responsive enough that you'll be able to play the game in its entirety. So there's a total of 4 levels here, and they go pretty quickly. There's a timer bar at the bottom of the screen that slowly drains. At the top of the screen is a number, and this is the amount of shots you must land before the timer runs out. Each area has a lot of different things to shoot to make the number at the top of the screen go down. For an NES game, it's very bloody and violent, so it's really no wonder why this game is unlicensed. Like the first scene here where you're in a graveyard. You shoot everything that moves, and of course one of the things is a nun pushing a baby stroller. What the hell? Well, if that's not disturbing, how about the rack room? You can stretch people in the rack and then dismember them to get past this level. Oh, and don't forget to shoot this little kid popping in and out of the doorway in the back. He's probably just looking for his parents who you just stretched on the rack. But if you want to get past this scene, you better pop a cap in his crown. Once you get past the 4th stage, the game just starts over again. It does get a bit tougher as you need to shoot more things to get past each level. Even though this is a violent game and had some disturbing images, I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, how grossed out can you be by 8-bit graphics?
Here's VR Fighter vs. Taken 2 on the Mega Drive/Genesis. I think they might mean Virtua Fighter vs. Tekken and certainly not Taken 2. The origins of this game are currently unknown, but it's safe to assume that it came from somewhere in Asia. And oh man, is it bad. You can choose from a few different Virtua Fighter and Tekken characters as well as Honey and Bond from Fighting Vipers. What are they doing in here? The control is every bit as stiff as the animation looks. What do you mean draw? I KO'd that mofo. The background graphics are okay, and the music is all bastardized versions of Virtua Fighter tunes. I didn't really enjoy this one, and you probably won't either. And here's the Lord of the Rings Return of the King on the Genesis. Finally, a Lord of the Rings game that J.R.R. Tolkien himself would be proud to play. This is a one-on-one fighter from Glory Sun, who is a Russian developer. This is a hack of another unlicensed game called Chinese Fighter. Anyway, you pick from a few different characters and your mission is to kick everyone's ass in Middle-earth, just like in the book. Of course, I'm playing as Aragorn. Screw everyone else, they're gonna fall to my blade. And when I win, I do a sweet victory pose which perfectly fits the character. The music is even kinda good, though I don't think it really fits as I battle this deadly orc, do you? Overall, the controls are basic but decent. It's certainly better than VR Fighter vs. Taken 2. The animation is really choppy, but what do you expect? There's a bar at the bottom that builds as you attack, and it lets you pull off an easily blockable special move when it's full. Frodo has all of the sweet special moves that he does in the extended edition of the 3rd movie, so you can finally relive that epic battle where he defeats Legolas once and for all. Anyway, the game's not half bad, but really only half good.
Of course I have to mention Bubble Bath Babes on the NES. What kind of video about unlicensed games would be complete without it? Well, here it is, and yes, it's super sexy, and I've never seen anything so dirty in my entire life. This is a puzzle game, and it's kind of a cross between Tetris and Puyo Puyo. So there's a nude girl at the bottom of the screen. And a group of colored bubbles will rise up from behind her. I wish I could rise up from behind her. You can shift these blocks to arrange the colors in the group to try and make them match up to the colors already on the screen. The problem is it's very hard to get groups to mesh together seamlessly like Puyo Puyo or Tetris. Like Puyo Puyo, once you get a certain number of colors to match, then they'll pop. Every now and again, a bubble will come down with a letter in it. If you can get this bubble to pop, you can slowly spell out the word magic. If you can hang on long enough without jizzing up the screen, without the screen filling up, you'll be able to clear the level. It's not easy, but after 2 levels, you get a picture of a hot girl fully clothed. She's talking sexy, but I'm not feeling anything yet. There's another game mode where there are bubbles already on screen, and you must try and pop them and get to the bubble with the letter inside. Good luck though, as this is damn near impossible. Since we're talking about unlicensed puzzle games here, let's just add Tang and Tetris. I've talked about this one before, so I'll keep it short, but it's worth mentioning again. While I do like the Nintendo version better, this is still a great game. It's a port of the Atari arcade version, and it supports 2 players, which is nice. The gameplay is awesome, and the best part about it is the soundtrack. All of the music here is great, and will have you humming the melodies long after you've turned off the power. It's worth it to have both versions of this game in your collection if you can find it. Alright, cool, man. Some really good games that were unlicensed on the Nintendo. I mean, don't you just love Nintendo's business sense? I mean, they're just...
Not really.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I mean, come on. The reason the licensing was so bad is, they had a monopoly. They determined how many units any company could sell of any particular game. It's, not hard to understand why some companies did not want to license their games through Nintendo.
But what a business model. I mean, that's what made Nintendo so awesome and successful.
The last part is definitely true. So, anyway, we've got more unlicensed goodness to show you, if you can call it good. I mean, some of them are good.
Yeah, some are good.
Freedom is invisible.
Tengen has a lot of unlicensed games on the NES, so let's take a look at the ones from Sega that they released, like Fantasy Zone. Sunsoft made a better version of this game for the Japanese market. Everything about this one is slow and choppy. The gameplay is definitely Fantasy Zone, but man does this version struggle with it. The graphics look decent, but they're often very glitchy to the point of distraction. I mean, sometimes it's impossible to see some of the bullets until they actually touch and kill you. But at least the music is still good in this version. I still don't recommend this one though. And then there's Shinobi. This one is actually a bad port of the Sega Master System version and not the arcade. Everything looks washed out in comparison, and the stages can only scroll horizontally as opposed to every direction like all the other versions. The stages are generally pretty easy as well, as every enemy only takes 1 hit. There's hostages to rescue, but you don't have to rescue them unless you want upgraded weapons, extra points, and a chance to play the bonus stage. Beating the bonus stage here will give you ninja magic. Once you have it, you can turn it on after a while, and it can help you by making you invincible for the rest of the stage or things like that. But really, this is a pretty crappy version of the game. And of course, they had to have their own port of Afterburner. Again, this is not to be confused with the superior Sunsoft version in Japan. This is a port of the arcade game, obviously, and it appeared on the Master System, Genesis, among other consoles. You start out by taking off from the Tengen Enterprise, and your job is to shoot down the enemy planes. Well, actually, your job is simply to survive, because it doesn't really matter much if you shoot the planes down or not. And it's harder than it looks, because in this version, it's really tough to avoid the enemy missiles. The graphics are okay if a little choppy, and the music is also only okay. Finally, there's Alien Syndrome. This one is actually better than the Sega Master System version, a lot better. For one, it's a lot more faithful to the arcade. Secondly, it's 2-player simultaneous if you have a friend, which I didn't when I captured this footage. And lastly, it's just a lot more fun. Basically, you've set a time bomb on different ships to get rid of the alien infestation, but you need to rescue all of the hostages before it goes off. There's a boss at the end of each level, and they all have multiple forms. The graphics are decent for the NES, and the music isn't anything special, but the arcade didn't have an amazing soundtrack either. It's just one of those themes that makes you try to feel some tension. Out of all of the Sega games from Tengen on the NES, this is the best one and something which I actually recommend.
B-52 is another game by Codemasters and published by Camerica. Released in 1992 on a silver cartridge, I've got to say that I actually like this game. It's very simple in what you have to do, but for some reason it's actually very fun to play. So you're a bee, and the object of the game is to collect honey from flowers and return it to your hive. As you're flying along, you come across flowers that you stick your nose into and collect the honey. Yep, flowers will produce honey, and all you have to do is gather it and fill up a jar. You can collect honey from 3 flowers at a time, and then you must return to the hive. After dropping off your honey load, you can go collect more if the jar isn't full. Once you fill the jar, then you've completed the stage. Along the way, there will be other insects and things in the environment that'll just get in your way. A sprinkler head shoots water at you, but it only stuns you. Spiders, ants, and butterflies are all here, and this usually isn't a problem since being a bee, you have a stinger. Luckily, you're not like a normal bee because you can use your stinger multiple times without dying. You can also kill enemies by shooting at them. What exactly you're shooting at them, I don't know, but it works. Killing other insects with your stinger is pretty fun, and I like the little splat of goo that they turn into. But you also turn into a splat of goo when you die, so be careful. Your bee is pretty responsive, but can be a bit hard to control. He moves pretty fast, but he can also stop fairly quickly. When you're done collecting honey, your bee will pop out fairly far from the flower, so you gotta be careful that there's no enemies behind you or else it will be the death of you. Each level is colorful and well drawn. I do like that there's a bit of parallax scrolling in here, which adds a touch of depth to the visuals, but for some reason there's no music while you're playing. What gives? Maybe I should be happy about that because of the quality in the music from the other Codemasters games. Like I said, this is actually a really fun game to play despite it not having a lot of depth. If you're really interested, it looks like copies aren't selling for bloated prices on eBay.
Let's take a look at Sonic Jam 6 on the Genesis. If you missed out on Sonic Jam 1 through 5, then this is the game for you. It features Sonic in his natural habitat of Mushroom Kingdom. Like always, Sonic starts out red until he collects a mushroom, which turns him blue. If he takes a hit, he turns red again. If you get hit while he's red, you die. But come on, this is all common knowledge to Sonic fans. What's cool is that blue Sonic can collect a flower which lets him shoot things, which is accomplished by pressing the A button. The B button stands for blast processing because holding that button down makes Sonic run faster. And the C button jumps. Okay, all kidding aside, this is just Sonic pasted into a bad port of Super Mario All-Stars. And yes, this was actually released in other countries. The control is slippery as hell. It took me a ton of tries just to get past level 1-2. This one originated in China and is based on a previous unlicensed game called Super Mario 2 1998. But it even got an official game rating by the ESRA, which grades games for Iran. Or how about Lion King 2 on the Genesis? This one's a side-scrolling platformer. I've never seen the Lion King 2 movie, but did it take place in China? Because this game sure does. I'm pretty sure that the developers ripped all of the lion sprites and animations from the legit Lion King game. In this one, if you collect the star, you turn into an adult lion, but if you get hit, you turn back into a cub. The control is fine and all, but the game just doesn't fit well in the Lion King universe. Even the music is very Chinese sounding. Still, some of the levels actually have a somewhat decent design surprisingly, so it'll keep you coming back trying to make your way through them. So how about Lion King 3 also on the Genesis? Is it better? Not really. You start out by choosing to play as a cub or an adult lion. It makes no difference to the gameplay, so it's just personal preference. This game relies more on the latching on and swinging from an object aspect than the last one. And now you have a power wave beam that you can shoot. Oh, and these graphics were ripped straight from the legitimate game that did have a license. I've played enough of the original to know that. But if I was gonna choose one, I'd choose Lion King 2 instead.
Alright, I've mentioned one Tengen game, now here's another. Tubin was released for the NES in 1989. I remember kind of liking this game in the arcade. We actually had a friend who loved it. He'd go down to Circle K after school, buy a 44-ounce soda, and then dump a few bucks into the Tubin arcade game. The NES port is fairly faithful as far as gameplay goes. It tries to be like the arcade game in graphics and sound, but understandably it just can't match it. The object of this game is to hop on your tube and ride down various rivers all while collecting money, soda cans, and letters to spell out the word Tubin. Soda cans are necessary since this is what you throw at enemies and branches in the water, cause you know, branches are a tube's mortal enemy. Breaking a branch will usually give you more soda cans, money, or letters. Throwing them at people or animals on the side of the river will stop them from throwing things at you. Each river you race down has a theme and some music to go with it. Like the Rio Grande here has Mexicans shooting at you and some nice Mexican music. I actually thought the music in this stage fit well. The one thing this game is missing is the two-player simultaneous play of the arcade. Tubin is a fun game in short bursts, and you can get this game for a decent price on eBay.
Shui Hu Fen Yun Zuan on the Genesis, say that 10 times fast, is actually kind of cool. This is a hack and slash beat 'em up similar to Golden Axe and especially Knights of the Round. You choose one of 3 characters or even 2 of them if you want to play with a friend. The action is pretty much what you'd expect, hack enemies with your sword until they die. You also have a jump as well as jumping attacks. Press the jump and attack button at the same time and you'll do a special move which will drain a bit of your life bar, but it knocks down a lot of the enemies that are surrounding you. Finally, you have a variety of magic spells that you can use once you pick them up. These are really cool and quite plentiful, so don't be afraid to use them. My least favorite character to play as is the axe wielding dude, since he's pretty slow and kind of awkward. My favorite is the normal guy with the sword. The female character is almost as good, she's pretty fun. One thing I think is really cool is when you bust barrels open, you'll be presented with items for points, food to restore your health, or a magic item. That's not the cool part though. If you slash the item, it divides up so that you can share food and points with your friend if you're playing in 2-player mode. You know, just like Knights of the Round. Overall, the control works out well, and double tapping the A button to use the magic was a little weird, but I got used to it. There's a little bit of slowdown here and there, but it's not too bad. The graphics are pretty dang good. Lots of vibrant colors and large enemy sprites. The animation is kinda choppy, but I guess I can forgive that. I really like a lot of the backgrounds as well. The music is surprisingly fantastic. I didn't hear any selections that I didn't enjoy, and they really helped me get into the action. The sound effects are pretty good as well, but they stole the dying scream from Streets of Rage. Unfortunately, it's super easy to earn extra lives and they give you a ton of continues, so it's kind of hard to not beat the game. Still though, I recommend it as it's a good time while it lasts. You can get a cartridge only version for around $40 or so when it pops up on eBay, which really isn't that often. And there you go, those were a bunch of unlicensed games for you. Some of them are probably plenty good enough to be licensed if they didn't have, like, you know, material that were ripped off and stuff like that.
Yeah, or extreme violence or some weird stuff. But, you know, on a side note, a cool thing that I liked was some of the cartridges that these games came on. They were completely different than the Nintendo ones. They don't really stack nicely on your shelves. They look a little out of place, but...
And that's what matters, you know?
Well, of course, you know, to the vain game collector it does.
Yeah.
But they're pretty cool nonetheless.
Yeah, and what are some of your favorite unlicensed games? Do you have any that you think are good enough or even better than a lot of the licensed games out there? I bet you probably know of a few. And in the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack.
Alright, Joe, you know, we just did that unlicensed game episode, right?
Dude, I totally remember that.
And I was looking at some of my games here, like Mega Man and Castlevania, and they've got the Nintendo seal of quality on here, which means they're quality games. And it's true, these are both quality. And I was thinking, I could just walk into any store, and if I see this quality seal on a game, I can buy it and feel rest assured that I'm getting a quality game.
Well, then why does Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde have that same Nintendo seal of quality? Why, Dave? Is this quality?
It's there it's...
And also, Totally Rad has that same seal of quality. Is that quality, Dave? Is it?
You know what? All right, Joe, let's talk about Sega for a second. I mean, they put their same seal of quality on their games, and tell me, is Sid of Val's a quality game? I don't think so. How about a Heavy Nova? I mean, look how big that thing is.
You know what, Dave? I don't think those quality seals mean a damn thing.
You're damn right.